The Florida State Legislature has just passed a bill that would make it much harder for counties and municipalities to regulate businesses. Once Governor Ron DeSantis signs it, it becomes law in the Sunshine State. So let's discuss what this legislation is and how disastrous it'll be for counties that seek to regulate businesses within their jurisdiction. So here's what you need to know about the Florida bill, okay? The bill allows corporations to sue cities or counties if they find or believe that a local ordinance is arbitrary or unreasonable. For example, let's say that the city of Miami passed some regulation that corporations didn't like. The corporations would be able to sue Miami within 90 days of the regulations being passed. Once the corporation sues, the regulations would be paused. Okay, there would be a halt on those regulations until the court rules in favor or against the city of Miami. If the court rules against Miami, the city's taxpayers would be forced to pay for the corporation's attorney's fees. Corporations would not be required to cover Miami's legal fees if they lose. So there's that double standard there, which is pretty gross and disgusting, which puts taxpayers on the line when it comes to this litigation. But even if the court does rule in the city's favor, or in regard to those regulations, the fact that those regulations have to be stopped, put to a halt as the litigation takes place, provides this massive loophole for these companies. And during that time, a different corporation could sue Miami over the same regulations, and the whole process would start over again, right? So you could have these constant, persistent lawsuits in regard to the regulations that these companies do not like. And as long as those lawsuits are ongoing, those regulations are never implemented. And that is what the state legislature in Florida has voted on. It is what they have passed, both in the state house and state senate. And now, as long as Governor Ron DeSantis signs it into law, it will become law. And it appears that this was modeled after the so-called Death Star bill in the state of Texas, which Texas Governor Greg Abbott also signed into law.
Yeah, so the Republicans pretend to be populist, and it's easy to paint Democratic leadership as elitist because they look and
they
act
are
like they're elitists, right? So the Democrats don't do themselves any favors. But don't get it twisted about the Republicans. This is who they actually are. Don't worry about what they say, look at what they do. So both in Texas and Florida, the Republicans are saying, we want to live under 100% corporate rule. And we don't want cities and local jurisdictions to be able to protect their citizens. I mean, that is 100% literal. So they're saying, if you want to protect your citizens in Orlando or in San Antonio, because you want to give them worker protections to be able to take a water break, for example, just simple things like that. Or you want to be able to do different things that like give higher minimum wage in your city, because sometimes the cities are not like the rural areas. They're a little bit bigger, it's a different context, people need more money, they're more expensive to live in. They're like, you're not allowed to do any of that because it could affect our beloved corporations. So we're gonna sue the hell out of you if you go in this direction. In fact, we're just taking your ability to do those laws away. Now, these are from the same Republicans who claimed that they were for local rule my entire life. It is so important that you get down to the community level, and we don't want the federal government, we don't want big government, we want local rule. Now they're like, oh, local rule is upsetting our corporate overlords. So local rule will be eliminated, and a core so-called conservative principle will be put in a dumpster and lit on fire, and you will all be subject to the most draconian rules we could possibly pass at the state level, which are completely controlled by Republicans, 100% owned by their corporate donors. Do not ever be deceived by Republicans. As the party stands right now, it is not anywhere near populist. It is the most sickeningly corporate party I have ever seen.
I mean, they continue to aid and abet the interests of corporations and their donors, and I think this is pretty clear. I want to give you a specific example so you can kind of conceptualize the kind of impact that this will have. So if you guys can recall, a few years ago, there was that tragic condo collapse in Miami. And it was due to the way that building was poorly built. It was due to lax building code regulations. And so if the city decides they want to bolster their building codes and they want to ensure that developers are following stricter standards when it comes to building new developments, well, if the developers decide that they don't like those regulations, if they have determined that those regulations just happen to be far too costly and go against their best interests, they could file lawsuits and engage in this litigation endlessly to ensure that those regulations are never implemented. So there are real consequences here when it comes to safety. There are real consequences here when it comes to workers' rights, when it comes to the way that they're treated in the workplace. I mean, the possibilities are endless here. And I didn't even give you all the details yet. There's more in this legislation. For instance, local governments would be required to draft a business impact statement every time they're considering a new ordinance. So, there are these environmental impact statements or studies to ensure that a new project isn't going to destroy the environment. But in this case, they're turning it on its face, and it's like, no. These cities need to provide a business impact statement. The impact statement would have to explain the economic impact of the ordinance on for-profit businesses, how many businesses the ordinance would affect, and the enforcement cost of the ordinance. Also, the Florida State Legislature just sent this bill to Ron DeSantis. He's very, very likely to sign it. And I want to give you a few more implications of this horrifying legislation. For instance, one person says that what you're saying is anyone can file their lawsuit even if they have deep pockets and it's for the wrong reasons. And all of my residents in my community have to pay those fees under your new statute. Is that correct? Representative Robin Bartleman, a Weston Democrat, asked the sponsor of the bill on Thursday during a lengthy debate in the House State Affairs Committee meeting. And the response by Representative Bobby Brackett, a Republican, is this: that is correct. That is correct.
Wow, he just says it.
Yep.
So if you were going to be a rare politician looking to protect your voters, you're just not even allowed to do it anymore in Texas or Florida. To give you an example from Texas, some of those cities had passed a rule saying that if there's extreme heat, you have to give a 10-minute water break every once in a while to people working in the heat. That's now going to be wiped off the books. You don't get water breaks anymore. It goes into effect September 1st, but to give you a sense of the effects that it can have, 2 people already died this week because of heat exhaustion in Texas while they were working outside. So that's a real thing. It actually kills people, and now you won't be able to regulate against it. And the Florida bill is arguably worse because not only does it just get rid of all the laws that you pass that would help your citizens, but on top of that, it says don't even think about it, because if you do, we're going to sue you and cost us. You're going to lose, and it's going to cost the city so much money you'll never be able to get out from underneath it.
Right.
So, and I read an article where they made a really good point. They said, look, it's already hard enough to get local legislators to do anything economically progressive. Now you put this on top, and it makes it flat out impossible. So the citizens cannot be protected. Corporate rule complete. Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.